everybody, far and wide, wherever you are in the world. We welcome you to WATN. Where are they now? Prime time on a Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. on Discover TV. Every week, I talk to iconic South African artists, people in the music business, local and international. We like to let them share how they came to this place in their lives. Some of them still being in the music business, some of them have changed their lives, different phases. But what we really want to know is where they are now and how they got here. So we love the crazy stories, the incredible people. We love the amazing experiences, the only people in the music industry who sometimes really understand these experiences. And it can be a bittersweet journey for some and a formidable journey for others. But whatever it is, it rocks, and we wouldn't have it any other way. So tonight's guest, fabulously crazy guy, globetrotter of note. He's played in some of the finest bands from Rhodesia to South Africa and then to the northern shores of America. Please welcome the one and only Bokkie De Beer, still fondly known as Bokkie De Beer. Hello, Bokkie. Welcome to the studio.
Hi, Cindy, man. What a pleasure to see you, man. This is so cool.
Isn't this cool?
Ek is ver van die huis af, man.
Jy is ver van die huis af. Maar jy is hier. Isn't technology wonderful, darling?
It's wonderful. And I've got the biggest biceps on the planet. I shovel snow broken. I've never shoveled so much snow in all my life.
Listen, my biceps are pretty big too, boy, okay?
I tell you.
No, I tell you. You're looking so well. I love seeing that, especially when somebody I haven't seen for quite some time. I mean, the last time we saw each other was maybe on a video chat or something, but Bokkie, you're looking so strong and healthy, and I'm glad you are still with us here today.
And no, great. Thanks, Cindy. And the only way I share this message with all South Africans who may have got lost in the mix, don't ever forget, the greatest doctor who ever will live is in my soul, in my heart, and in my home.
Zambuk!
I got my Zambuk.
You do not go anywhere without your Zambuk.
I tell you.
It goes in every orifice and on top of every piece of skin. It still works.
That could cure a dinosaur's cold.
I think we're going to end up laughing a lot. And I said to you earlier, I just don't care if you just want to talk for the whole night because you're going to keep us entertained. But I do like to ask a few little pertinent questions, like starting where everything started for you. I think you were from like Gwelo, somewhere around there in Rhodesia. Is that correct?
Yeah, Gwelo. I went to boarding school in Gwelo. I was born in Shabani. I mean, the town was so small, you had to leave town to change your mind.
Okay. Whoop! I think we should have drum rolls every 5 minutes. So tell me about that. I mean, a lot of our local musicians grew up in what was known as Rhodesia, Zimbabwe. Lots of them, lots of great musicians came from Zimbabwe. What was it like living there in those early years? I believe it was quite special.
It was special, and there was a hunger in everybody's heart trying to navigate their way through what we should do and how we should present ourselves. And remember, Cindy, in those days, there was no online teaching, videos, tuition. There was nothing. And we had LPs. The greatest concept that a musician can ever have is the art of listening. So we had to play records, pull the needle back and go forward and back. And we had to work out at frightening speed what was going on. So we never got to see the Beatles and the Stones and Nat King Cole and and everybody. So we had to try and find the best way we could do it. But there was a savage innocence to the way we approached it, because we had our own inner strength in our presentation, thinking, man, we got to be as good as those guys. But in a strange way, we were on a parallel, just doing the best we could. And I got to find it out when we started traveling internationally. I thought everybody on the planet Earth was 100,000 times better than all of us. And the answer was no. No, 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 no. We had a strength and a power and an offering. It was brand new, and we claimed it, and it was our own. The whole world had their own music. South Africans claimed and invented and came up with their own kak. It was, and there was again, it was like a caveman logic. We
Yes,
all were trying to
indeed.
find our way to this crazy continent in Africa, and at the end of the day, we did it and we pulled it off.
Yes, we did. And it's funny you should mention that, Bokkie, because nearly every single musician I've spoken to, that we say, people thought that South Africans think that they're sort of less than and they're not as good as, and all this nonsense. And yet, exactly what you said, through the sheer will to survive and to make a mark, we did it. We made marks. Whatever you did, you made a mark. You made something, and it was uniquely South African.
Yes. It was beautiful, Cindy, and what a wonderful road traveled, full of mischief, wonder, adventure, discovery. Beautiful, man. And
I
so
love it.
a lot of people go. So there's a lot of people who work here, and they have extremely, and I mean this is Canada. They have extremely well-paid jobs. They are kind of boring. I'm going to use a word. They work with the government and with the city, and they get great dividends. And when they retire, they get Mursa packages, payoff packages. And I never had that,
Yeah.
I never had it on their level. But they would look at me and go, I would cut my head off to travel the road you traveled. They look at people like you and I, and all
Yes.
internationally travel artists, and they go, you've lived 10 lives. Lived 10 lives, and it's a wonderful compliment. So
It's
lots
an
of people,
incredible compliment.
yeah, it's wonderful, man.
And the fact that we know it and we are grateful for it, because we have the gratitude. It's not like, whatever, sold millions of records, traveled the world. It's always been special to us because we have that sort of savage naivety, as you said earlier.
Cindy, there was a hunger in all the South African artists when we played. If somebody paid $20 for a ticket, we gave you $40. Because every time we went on stage, it
Absolutely.
was the last show, and we would go, if it's the last thing we do, we are going to gooi. We are going to clap. We're going to clap everybody's swollen. And we used to play and give. When you left the Clegg concert, your concert, many other South African bands, when you leave concert, you go, dude, I got my money's worth.
I've got
Yeah,
my
Cindy,
money's
man.
worth. Something happened here. There was a moving. There was a something. And that's the power of music, Bokkie. Music is not only the soundtrack to our lives. When somebody plays something, they'll say, "Do you remember when we saw each other at the Johnny Clegg concert? Or do you remember when we all went to see Brian Adams?" Or blah blah blah. People remember this stuff. It is absolutely sunken into their minds because of the music.
But Cindy, it's interesting with the South African musicians, because we came from a low ceiling. Living here in the
Yes.
North Americas, there are gazillions of musicians, and most people think they're all good. Nah, it's only the top 5%. Everybody else is going.
Sure.
And
Sure.
we all worked with, never belittled. We worked with, schmoozed with, laughed with, and we shared all our energy in South Africa. And we thought, this is all one. We're all on the same boat, and we're going to help each other. And you know what, Cindy? Generosity is good business. It is the
Yes.
most understated, lucrative currency on the planet. Being kind, courteous, forthright, giving, good Samaritan, being genuine, kind, and honest is it's the most powerful currency in the world. Generosity is good business, and South African people understood that. Every time there was somebody passed away, or somebody there was the fire of the 20th century, everybody pulled the resources and said, "How can I help you? I love, cherish, and miss that. And I was such a huge part of it. I'm grateful for that, man."
I think that's very special, and that's something you're taking with you. And as you said, I mean, we didn't even realize what great currency that was. But to me, to this day, when people say Cindy, you're such a nice person, you're a kind person, and all that stuff. That means something to me. Not, oh, you're a great artist, you're fabulous. Yes, that's almost like a given. It's what I've been doing my whole life. But being told that I'm kind and I'm generous and I'm a good person, that to me is far more important than how many records I've sold.
No, for sure. Loved every moment of it, man. But this is
Yes.
great. I'm so glad we're getting to do this, because you and I've chatted on and off on WhatsApp.
We've
And
been
now,
chatting for a couple of years as well on Messenger. I just want to let you know that we already have some people online saying hi. We've got Marion. She runs my fan page on Facebook in Germany. So Marion's watching from Germany. And hey, listen to this one. Hey, Bokkie, looking great. Brian Mulder.
one of my
Hey,
big, Brian Mulder and
Brian
myself,
Mulder.
Brian Mulder and myself, over thousands of years, we've been talking about trains, tuk-tuk trains,
I remember he loves the model trains.
model trains. And him and I have chatted about trains over and over again. And you know, when Brian had an unfortunate incident where he got ambushed, and he was down and out, and things really fell apart for him. Now, he'll tell you, I called him 2-3 times and we both wept. And I
Yeah.
showed the deepest level of respect by picking up the phone, calling him on a one-on-one to tell him that I love him and I'm with him. And he will tell you that.
And there's the thing we were just talking about. Being kind and courteous and caring is far more important than anything.
Absolutely. And you know what, Cindy, the last one of the last few trips I went to South Africa, Alistair Coakley, who is a madman,
Yes,
he
but we
said
love him.
he said to everyone, let's go to this coffee shop. I don't know I can't remember what it was called now. And he said, all the musicians should come round and just come and say hi to Box. Man, Melly Watson arrived, Clive Goodwill, Keith Hutchinson, and Gavin Langerfeld, Steve Spanny, and a whole bunch of
Yeah,
people. And my soul wept that day just to
of
go,
course.
here are all, this is bro time.
It is bro time.
It
I'm
was
sorry I
bro.
missed that one. It was
Oh no.
beautiful. I
And you
know.
and who came to see me? Sandy Smith. Ah, it was so
And
cool.
Sandy told me that you and her used to live together, not as a couple, but you lived in the, you shared a place.
Shared a place, Sandals. Love her to bits, man.
Sandals. I love Sandy too. See, it's all these good memories. So, like, I want to take you to just say your start of your bands and stuff, your school days, Guelo, your bands. I mean, you what was going on there? There were a couple of names. Was the Estonians part of that, or was that in Durban?
Well, no, the Etonians were from
Etonians.
Bulawayo.
Okay,
We were
Etonians.
from Bulawayo, and then they got their drummer couldn't do much more. So I'm not sure what his name was Norman, very cool guy. Then I got to join the group and play in Bulawayo. Then we went down to Durban,
Okay.
and we were in on the Durban beachfront playing in a hotel, and you won't believe this, Cindy. You won't. Oh man, maybe I'll tell the story. We were
Tell the
in
story.
this hotel in Durban, and I was on the drum kit at about 11 in the morning playing, having some fun practicing, and two guys came through from an adjoining bar, and it was the day that Furvut was clapped, and they thought I was rejoicing, and these people came through and they had a knife. Now,
Whoa.
I'm not in the story to say they stuck it to my throat and they wanted to kill me, but they threatened me, and I said, I'm not sure where you're going with this. And they just said, well, it's a sad day. And I go, I didn't know that. So there was my days with the with the Etonians on the Durban beachfront. But
Shoo.
fabulous band, good musicians, lots of fun, and that was the early days of experimenting in the 60s, where nobody
Yes.
really knew where it was gonna go, and
Okay.
we had unbelievable artists, and then it ended up for me some of the greatest valuable contributions to music for me was the English guys like Colosseum, King Crimson, Jethro
Yes.
Tull,
Yes.
I can't think of all the other names, but
That
these guys,
changed the face of popular music because it was heavy music. It was
And
like
in those
metal.
days, Cindy,
It was
there
rock.
was a statistic that Britain had about 5% of the world's market of music, but
Yeah.
yet it amounted to 65% of the influence around the world. Everybody
Sure.
was watching Britain, but there was only 5% of them. These guys had something to say. It's the level of originality. They thought, what can we come up with? I mean, when we first heard Jethro Tull or King Crimson and or Clegg or any of the South African bands, and
Yes.
even reggae, if reggae never came along, I mean, that shook the planet. When
Sure.
reggae came along, they jolted the system, those guys, whoever they are, from Bob Marley and all the other guys.
Right.
It was a major influence, and you need people to come along and jolt the system and
Shake it up.
go, I have something to offer. Then
Well, that's what.
when we
Things
were in,
change.
yeah,
Things must change because when you were then, I mean, then there was the new romantics thing, that came up, and then there was punk, and all these things are like, oh, it's different, and and a lot of that stuff did originate in the UK.
yeah. I really wanted to see Tim Parr, Heather Mack, some of the other undergraduates who were as powerful as everybody else. They went to Ireland with Billy Bragg
Yes.
and a whole bunch of other people. And I really wanted to see, I was hoping Tim Parr and Heather and a bunch of other artists could have got a lot more mileage out of what they were doing. But at the end of the day, we all tried our hardest, man.
Listen, we all did everything that we could, and if we got our shot overseas, we used it to the best of our abilities, but we didn't even realize what we were doing half the time. We were just playing music, Bokkie.
That was the fun. And it was being away from home, Cindy. The joke is, we used to go on tour for so long, we'd come home, and when your own dog bites you, So from the Juluka Savuka days when we went on tour, one of our tours was 13 months. That's 1 month more than a year. And generally there were 8 months. But by the time you take your production from the southern shores to the northern shores, you can't go for 3 weeks and come back. It's too much of an expenditure.
No,
so you have to carry on.
Yes.
And man, it's not
brutal.
The greatest friend we ever had, the greatest, most beautiful, loving friend we ever had was the show and the camaraderie of everyone. And the next 22 hours waiting for the show would be on the bus.
Yeah.
And it gets a little bit lonely sometimes.
Sure. Lonely, I know. Lonely and long. And yeah, I mean, as you said, the best friend is your show because that's what you're there for. And as soon as you're getting ready for the show and you get on that stage, then everything makes sense again. Everything makes sense.
Then the words are, we've landed. And we were on stage and you give it your all. And we were so satisfied and purified in our hearts, knowing that the ticket payers have come to see whatever they've come to see, and we delivered every time. There was one thing with Clegg, was, man, the band, we would wake up every morning and charge hell with a bucket of water. Every day.
Yes, you did. And that's what made it what it was, because that's what translated to the people watching. It wasn't like, oh, yeah, a couple of people dancing around on stage and going, yeah, or yeah, or it doesn't matter that. It was the level of bringing something special to the people.
But you know what else was actually pretty powerful, Cindy, was in the days of apartheid, when whiteys were not allowed in black areas, which a lot of people didn't seem to understand. Yes. And the black guys weren't allowed in the white areas. And we'd go to all the townships. And these guys would be dancing and singing and loving the music. But it was sometimes at a pretty great expense. The amount of times we got arrested or charged, or not only us, many, many artists, from Stimela and Hot Sticks and us. Oh, Hotline, we all got hoyed out of a lot of places where we were not supposed to be.
Even I got hoyed out.
But we were helping create and write a new adventure for everyone in South Africa. So when everybody looked up at the shelf, they were all political parties and levels of statements that were on the shelf. And there was our little beacon of light, all of us. You know what the saying is, Cindy? We are all a little candle flame just burning, a little
Yes.
flame just burning. Not all the darkness that the world has to offer can put your little flame out and mine. And that was the chutzpah that we had in South Africa. The musicians
Sure.
was like, up yours, pal. We're
Yeah.
going to do this. And that was our offering. And it changed the minds. And now what you got in South Africa now is Move 1 Million. And a lot of other people who are gathering resources, putting stuff together, and trying to find a way through this madness. We're all lost, Cindy. We're all
Yeah.
crazed and lost. We're all trying to find our way. And at least you and I and everyone who looked like you and I in those days, that was the best offering we could come up with. But we had a lucrative currency. We offered it with the most honest, dignified respect that we could. And we were going, here's some more tools to work with. And I'm glad I was a part of it.
I'm also glad I was a part of it, Bokkie.
Yeah.
That was a very special thing, getting nailed from different people, whites shouting at me, telling me, why am I playing with these black people, and what are you, disgusting, and all this stuff, and fighting through stuff like that, and just looking at yourself and saying, I'm standing for something. I'm standing for something, whatever little difference we made, and we did make a difference. Concert in the Park was probably the biggest difference, because
Yes.
everybody was there and nobody gave a damn. When they walked in, they said, oh, you're not allowed to be in here. They just said, bugger you, we're coming in.
Yeah, that diffused a lot of the stigma, because we broke a lot of rules.
We broke the rules.
We broke the rules.
We broke the rules. Woo!
Yeah, and we did what we did. And when we were on stage, we were getting all set up. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and a film crew arrived. And there was a lady with the film crew. She was doing all the filming and interviewing, and it was Annelien Kriel.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, they were trying to get her to sort of cross over and be a presenter and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was
So
a little short-lived, but anyway.
Yeah, so we had a little bit of a chat backstage, and then I looked at her. And I knew who she was, but to see her face to face, I wanted to go, are you really Annelien? But we chatted for a couple of minutes, and that was the deal. It was beautiful.
The deal. But we all met so many incredible people. But before the Johnny Clegg experience, you were working Joburg with Fantasy.
Yeah. Just switch my phone off.
Okay, switch it off.
No,
Fantasy. Let's talk a bit about Fantasy, because in Fantasy were so many brilliant musicians, and we used to come to Plum Crazy to watch you, and to
Bella Napoli.
20th Century, Bella Napoli, especially there, because Clout were playing at 20th Century, always doing little shows, like one-off shows.
Yeah.
And we used to see you guys. Your band was ridiculous.
You know this, on the subject, Cindy, we had Lolly Peterson, who was
Vocal.
who was non-white. So Lolly would be playing with us for about 8-10 years through the club circuit, and the Greek owners had to go to the lawyers and pay $2,000 a month at the time, which was Mursa bucks, and we had to pay to get a license for Lolly to perform in the club.
In the clubs, I remember that.
So even before Clegg, we were running the gauntlet of apartheid.
No.
And Lolly, when he couldn't dance with white chicks, and when we took a break, he had to go into the service bar and stand there. So we all had to do that. And some nights we'd finish playing, and I'd go outside to get in my car and go home, and there'd be a couple of oaks from Boksburg, Brakpan, and they'd look at me and go, hey, Kafel Buti. Now they want to move me. And of course, we're going through fisticuffs now again. So even before the Clegg days, even before Clegg, we had been experiencing Lolly all along. And he was such a lekker oak, man. And we did well, but we did the best we could. But again, we already were experiencing that, trying to play in white clubs.
Listen, even from the Clout days, we were absolutely told, no way are you ever going to pick up an instrument in England. even though you were number 2 on the top of the pops,
I
there's
remember
no
that.
way you're allowed to touch an instrument. We don't want you bloody apartheid lovers there. You are all slave drivers, and oh my God, the things we used to have to go through. And yet, the music, I always say this, music has a power of its own, and the power of music overrides everything eventually.
It's a
It
common
just does.
denominator. So when
Yes.
you and I listen to an album and we go, the artist's
Right.
name is so and so, and you listen to it, I don't really mind who the drummer or the bass player is. I just
No.
enjoy the music. So
Sure.
we never ever, artists around the world, we never look at an album and go, that guy's a colored guy, that guy's an albino, that guy's gay, so I'm not going to buy the album. I
No.
mean,
No.
you've got to be brain dead to do that. And artists just go, dude, put the blindfold on, plug in, and let's have some fun.
And that's what we do.
That's what we do.
So, fantasy in the challenging years, but it was so great. I mean, Chris Galakis, of course, in fantasy.
Yeah.
Chris, Ashley Brokershaw,
And Marley Kelly.
Marley. Oh my God, what a singer! I had Marley on the show a couple of months ago. She was amazing, and she saw your poster. She said, "Oh my God, I've got to go on. I want to actually check who else is here." Mark Vass, of course, is
Yeah.
sending us another great show. Thank you, Mark. Always thanks. He always sends me some footage and things that I don't know about. And Lenny Lavery, she says, I was in Guelo in 1973, visiting family, going by train, and was still in school. There's an experience, you see, relating to what you're talking about. I want to mention a few guys also, like Gary and Spider, Peter Badenhorst, those guys. Used to play with them.
Yes, the
Those
Pete
were the
Badenhorst.
roadie days. Yeah, Pete.
Yeah, from roadie days. Pete Badenhorst and Rake de Kok and a whole bunch of other guys. And our band was called The Strangers.
That's
And,
it. I've got that down. The
And
Strangers.
so, Cindy, I went to boarding school. I went to boarding school from 1959 to 1965.
Yes.
And in those days, when you leave home, no telephones, no email, no WhatsApp, no nothing. When you see your mom and dad, you say, I saw my mom and dad 3 times a year. Now, it sounds like a crying story, like every other child that went to
No.
boarding school. And then
No.
I got to play with Pete Badenhorst and the Rector Kok and all the Oaks. And my mom had to go to the principal, the headmaster of the school, and give me special permission to go out on weekends. So I'd go out on weekends and earn money playing with the band.
Okay.
But good for my mom and good for the school for allowing me to go out. But those guys were nice to play with, man.
I'm sure.
Really nice.
All those roadie guys were good guys. Now, what was there was a band I found from you, the Mercies.
Hey, you know what's in the Merseys?
I know you.
Was Paddy Powell
Paddy Powell and
Brian Powell and Nippy Cripwell.
Nippy Cripple. I remember that. Bass player of note.
Nippy used to come to band practice. He was about 15 or 16 years old. He would walk after school to come and see us, and sometimes he'd be late because he was making tea for his grandmother. Truth be told.
Oh, how
And-
sweet.
And things would sometimes be cold, and he wouldn't have a jacket. We named him Nippy.
Is that really where it came from?
And
Oh my God.
Paddy Powell sang, what was Paddy's big hit? It was, I got to think of it now. Oh, it was the big hit that he had, Paddy Powell. From the Merseys.
From the Merseys. Don't remember. We should look it up. Look it up. We've got Google, darling.
Yeah, it's funny now. I know that song so well, and but Paddy's been living in the States now for about 40 years.
Okay.
So
I know you want to say something. I'd like to play. We've got a video of fantasy.
we've got.
Yeah. I think.
Hey,
Yeah, I want
that's
to
when
see
I was
that.
young and good looking with brown. That's when I was young and good looking with brown curly hair.
Now you're older, good looking with gray hair. Lovely, darling.
Distinguished, mate.
Silence in court. Tell me what's the verdict?
Luke. Costa.
My heart is a courtroom,
Yes.
baby. The hearing's going on. Next witness to the stand. Suspect number one. Tell the truth and nothing more. The right hand on the book. Evidence is clearly seen. And there's no need to look. No need to fool the judge nor jury. You can't conceal the facts no more. Silence in court. Tell me what's the verdict? Guilty or innocent? Tell me what's the verdict? Is it you or love that I'm thinking of? What's the verdict? What's the verdict? My heart is a steel hammer, beating like a drum. Music ringing in my ears, a tingle on my tongue. Prosecution's ready now, the hearing will commence. First question all you need, but there's no defense. No need to fear the judge nor jury. There is no doubt that you're in love. Silence in court. Tell me what's the verdict? Guilty or innocent? That's the verdict. Yes, it's you, our love, that I'm thinking of. That's the verdict. That's the verdict. Silence in court. Tell me what's the verdict?
Key change.
Verdict. Key change, I love it. Innocent. Tell me what's the verdict.
Ah, it's lovely.
Love it. That's real, man. That's like so 80s, you know.
It was cool. You know, Costa had a severe stroke
Yes, I heard
in
about
Greece.
that.
Yeah, so
Yes,
him and I chat on and off when he's awake and concise, and we can chat, you know.
yes.
And in the days of the 20th century, rest in peace, Adrian Stradom. What an amazing musician who had the best drum sound I ever heard in my life was him and George Bastos. I can't remember
Oh,
the name of
God,
his
yes, I
band.
remember that.
And Adrian called me one morning. He goes, "Hey, Bokkie," it was like 6:30, 7 in the morning. He goes, "Hey, Bokkie, get out of bed, Booty. I think you better get down to the 20th century. It's burned to the ground." And I said, "What?" So I called Costa and Ashley. We got the Oaks and we drove down there, and it was just cinders.
Ashes.
There was just ashes. There was nothing. That was a heavy spook for us. But there was some inside job going on.
There
That
was
was
some
Jewish.
inside information going on with that one. That was definitely an insurance, you know
That
what I'm
was-
saying.
That was Greek lightning.
Alex, Greek lightning. Greek lightning. I love it. So we've got Tony Gaza. Tony, hello, my darling.
Hey,
Tony Gaza. Greg Pentopoulos.
nice, Greg.
Shelley Howroyd, she is one of our fans and my friends. She's loving this. Marion is loving it from Germany as well. And Mark, he's telling us Adrian Stradom was in Black Ice. There was another band.
Is it Black
right?
Ice? Yeah.
Yeah.
And Cindy, after Juluka, Johnny said to me, I'm going to do a solo album. I said, fine. Do you want me? And he said, no, I'd rather not. I'm going to go with Bobby and use a drum box. And he got Alistair Coakley, a couple other guys. He said, I don't want to use any Juluka guys. I said, sure. And then I went to Cape Town. I lived in Cape Town for about a year with all my buddies. And I was playing with Steve Lowe from All Night Radio.
Okay.
And he lives on Glen Beach in Cape Town. So I was living in a literal orgasmatron fantasy world, living on a beach with Steve Lowe. And then Clegg called me and he goes, hey, Bushman, he says, come back to Joburg. We got to get this. We got to fire the engines up again. I said, sure. So there were two people in the band, Clegg and myself. And the third person who committed to the project was John Mack, the onstage engineer.
I remember John Mack, of course.
There were three
we
of
all
us.
know John, with his sound company and all that. Yeah, absolutely.
And then so Johnny said to me, Books, go find some musicians. We got to put this thing together. So I called a bunch of guys. And rest in peace was Peps. And I said, Peps, come. And he says, it'll never take off. It's going nowhere. And no other names mentioned. I called a couple other guys and they go, it's fraught and it's died. It's going nowhere. So we were begging people to join the band.
That's great.
Nobody believed in anything. So it was Clegg, myself, and John Mack. And then I convinced Hutchinson.
Yes.
Keith Hutchinson, who is, Cindy, did you know that Keith has not perfect pitch, but he's got relative pitch? You give him middle C, he'll write parts for an orchestra.
Yeah, he's insane.
He's like Johan Lass, and lots of other guys.
Yeah, those guys, they're so genius. They just hear it in their heads. They're like the Beethoven guys, the Beethovens and the Bachs and all those guys.
And Henny Beck, I speak with Henny quite a bit in Toronto here. But Keith was very understated. I mean, he was good with Savuka and everybody knew him from there. But that guy, like Johan and all the guys, they all did the grade 8, grade 9, grade 10 piano. They studied theory, they did harmony, they did composition, they did everything. They would walk through Berkeley blindfolded,
Sure,
Keith, so we got Keith in the band, and that's how Savuka started. Then we got John Shaughnessy. Then we battled for
Gary. Did Gary play with you? Yeah.
Well, it was the early Juluka days, with Gary. Good guy, Gary, man, and he held the camp together a lot.
Gary's like that. Gary's like that with us. He's playing with Clout again because he took over when our bass player left. So just to mention that Gary does hold it together. He's very loyal. And he keeps everything online, He's a good boy.
Loved old Van Sale. Good old Plaas Boer then.
He's a Boer. Yeah, well, okay. There's some very bad, naughty stories. Not bad stories. Naughty, lekker stories. I want to play at least one. I want to see a Johnny Clegg video now that you were in. I don't know which one we chose. And living in South Africa at that time, we talked a bit about it, but it was probably a gift to us all. We didn't realize it because what has happened since has made it not a gift anymore.
There was a hunger, Cindy. There was a hunger. It was on the plate, waiting to be bitten and tasted.
Yes.
And everybody had that innate ability themselves to go, it's right in front of it. Don't let it go. Tap into it. Utilize it. Use it. Magnify it. Get mileage out of it. And all South African artists went, there's something going on here. So we all jumped on that one, did the best we could, took it to international shows, and we were overwhelmed by the fact that so many people did recognize our valuable input.
And it was valuable.
Yeah.
I call your name, Johnny Clegg.
Gibiza igama lakho. I call your name.
Yo, yes.
You know,
That
Cindy,
was the spirit of it. Yes.
I tell you, we used to finish shows uh, around the world. You won't believe how many people would come backstage and go, "Who is your bass player?" Solly Latwaba. Solly was
Yeah.
he was bigger than big. Yo, so many
He held
musicians
it.
around the world would have a heart attack when he played. And then, of course, along came Bakiti, and Bakiti was
Yes.
already there. But it was we hit the early stop. We paved the road paved the road for a lot of people. But
Yes.
Solly, yo, and he never made a mistake, sang out a tune, always showed up on time, never had an attitude. You talk about a focus, man, and I was the drummer to play with Solly. I could brag till the day I die. I had the greatest pleasure on planet Earth to play with Mr. Solly Latwaba. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yo, and when
Wow.
Pagati Inklesius, Jabulani cool, man. In my soul, I'm so happy.
Oh,
Hey,
love
Inklesius,
that.
man. Yeah.
I love it. It's so real. It's so, you were part of something. You still are. People say you were this and you were that and you had this. I don't care about that nonsense. We still have it. You can't take it away from somebody once they've
No.
got it. Once they've done it and had it, and you can't take it away.
No,
It's there. It's there in time and space. Serena Boyle.
yes, scenes. Eddie's wife.
Scenes. Eddie's wife is saying hello, my books. Ugh, man. And Paddy Powell. The song you were looking for was Polly, You're Proud.
No, it was, oh, mammy,
Wasn't?
mammy blue, oh, mammy blue, oh,
Okay,
mammy,
did
mammy.
that?
Oh.
Graham Beggs produced that.
Yeah, and so that was Paddy Powell. And I
Oh, is
also
that
know
what
the other
it
one.
was? I didn't know that was Paddy Powell. Interesting.
That was Paddy.
Huh. Okay.
Oh, mammy, mammy blue. Yeah. Oh, beautiful sentiment.
And we've got Ann Heiser here as well from California. Clegg Head Forever. Beverly Lipman, wow, that was amazing. Beverly, we want to wish you well, darling. She's just had COVID and she's doing so well. She's such a star. Lots of love to you, my darling. So let's talk about when on tour, the people that we used to work with because we were international traveling artists. Who did you used to work with? Talk to me. Let's hear some of the names. I know there was the Tracy Chapmans and the Springsteens and Sting and all those guys.
We did.
Okay.
We were on the Amnesty tour with Springsteen. I keep on saying Sprinkling, Bruce Springsteen, and Peter Gabriel, all, and then we were in Abidjan.
Okay.
We were in West Africa, and I'll tell you, something happened that day, Cindy. I could relive this a million times. We kind of finished our show, and then Sting walks on stage with a microphone. Peter Gabriel, all the gangsters, all the Mullions, they walk on stage, and Sting goes, "Hey guys," so we were all going, "What is this?" And Sting goes, "We're going to do a song together." We're all scratching our heads. We're now on an international stage where 2 billion people potentially are watching this.
Oh,
Billions of people watching.
Amnesty.
There's like 80,000 people in the audience, and Sting goes, "Do you know, you guys know Get Up, Stand Up for Your Rights?" And we all went, sure. Okay. And he goes, "Well, we're going to do it in G." And Sting, he turns around to me and he goes, "Derek, hit it." And I tell you, I froze, Cindy, because I was going to go, am I going to be too fast, too slow? Is it going to be the wrong feel? What's going to happen? And I thought, this is teamwork. TEAM, together everybody adds meaning. I knew in the bottom part of my soul, no matter what I delivered, they would support me. And I went,
Absolutely.
and I started playing, and the band came in, and it made perfect sense. You'd swear we were the best rehearsed band in the world. I won the lotto that day, because you ain't going nowhere without Box. Box is going to set the tempo. You guys are going to join in. I tell you, and I knew they'd support me. That was powerful. And then we did about
That's
another
something.
5 or 6 shows. I can't, people go, what do you mean you don't remember? I don't know, Cindy. There could have
I
been 10
know.
shows with Sting.
No,
I don't know.
I know.
We did a whole bunch of that. Then we toured with Stevie Winwood for about 4.5 to 5 months across the US.
Wow.
Then we ended up at the Albert Hall for 10 days. Yep. At the Albert Hall in London. And we were backstage. And who comes backstage? Phil Collins. Hello, Governor.
Hello, Governor. Want to meet you guys. Hello.
Is it? And then we did 4 months with Tracy Chapman. We did quite a few shows with Earth, Wind and Fire. And then we'd be in Lausanne, Switzerland on the top of the Alps. And there would be Steve Van Zandt. And I think Bryan Adams was on that show. And then we played a couple of shows with Tina Turner. I mean, I could go on and on just saying who we played with, but it's all irrelevant. It's all relevant. You just show up. You just show up and play.
But that's the thing, is to us it's no big deal really. Like I'm not saying that I was being blasé about it, and you weren't being blasé, but these were just other musicians we were playing with.
Well, you know what, Cindy? There's no point in us. We would be backstage, and Bruce Springsteen would walk by, or Sting, and you look at them and they look at you and you go, hi. Then you eat from the same deli tray. And there's so much you want to say, or can I have a photograph taken? Or and you just go, no.
I know.
And then you just go, no. And then don't question yourself if you have the right to be there, yay or nay. The fact remains is you are there, you're on stage, you're on the show, you've earned the right to be there. And we're from South Africa, where it just seems to be in the middle of nowhere. But here we are on an international stage with the most powerful artists in the world, and we earned our right to be there. Oh, yeah.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's the way, man. So I want to just ask a little bit. When did you move to Canada? When did it end with Johnny? Was it a good ending, a bad ending? What was it, if you don't mind talking a little bit about it, and tell us what happened and what made you move?
Oh, very briefly, Cindy. I met the mother of my children who passed away last year, and our marriage was really short. And we have 2 children. We have 2 children. My son Devin, who's 28, and my daughter Alana, she's 26. And I knew the marriage wouldn't last. And Devin was coming on some tours with us, and Lanny came on one tour. And I wanted to be a father. I didn't want to be an absent father. So it was like E.T., go home. So if I can rephrase, the very first international tour we did was a whole bunch of countries, and I went home with stars in my eyes, and I thought, this is cool. And I had a lot of footage. 2 tours, 3, 4. After the 5th tour, you go, okay, I've been to Oslo 5 times. How many more times do you want me to go there?
Sure.
And on and on. Then eventually it becomes a little bit hurtful after a while. And I thought, my brother had passed away, and my stepdad had passed away, and my children my son was born, my daughter was now born. I did not want to be an absent father. So I just thought, how many more times do you want me to go and do the same gig over and over again? And I thought, I've done my time. And I went home to be the greatest. Every single parent on the planet is, by definition, the greatest parent in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we all suffer the same blows. And I brought both my children up. I got custody of them from 5 to 5.5 years old. My daughter was about 4. My son was 5.5. So I've been Mrs. Doubtfire for them their whole lives. And so I decided that Canada was a nice place to be. It's compassionate, nice. There's human rights, dignity, compassion, respect. And they seem to have a lot going on here. So I thought, well, I'll try it and see how things go. And it's been good. Canada's good. But that's kind of why I left. And I wanted to give my kids a clean slate from which they could excel, rather than go, I'm going to force you to be born in South Africa and you're going to go through the hardships that I did. I could have done that, and I thought, well, maybe not. I'll just give them another life,
And you did. You gave them another life and you gave yourself another life.
Oh, no, for sure. No, it was great, Sydney, man.
I mean, you've had such experiences, such an amazing times. Nobody, as I said, nobody can take that away from us. Our experiences live on in the cells of our bodies, because everything lives in the cells of your body. All your memory, everything is in there. You take it with you wherever you go.
No, for sure, Cindy. And I remember watching you guys do concerts. You'd go to Germany and you'd come back. You try to lay low a little bit because you were on the road all the time. And
Yes.
then Ingy would come to visit me and we chat. We do a lot of chatting. Her son's name is Devin too, the same as my son.
Yes, that is correct.
And then you guys would do a couple of shows and we get to go and see you. And I thought, there it is again. It's focused, it's concise, it's landed, it's earned the right to be there. And I thought, good for you.
Yeah.
Love that,
And
man.
you know what? It's a funny thing that when somebody decides to stop something, I mean, ours was because of the bad experience of not being paid and stuff like that. That's what whittled it away for us, because we'd just broken into America and Japan. We were just about to be really, really top world huge, because we were a pop band. It wasn't a culty kind of band. It wasn't an underground band. It was a pop band. It was going to go for as long as it was going to go. And when everything fell apart and you look at your life, and again, I mean, that, even though it was not the best experience ending Clout, it was very hard on all of us.
Yes.
But it brought me to here today. Here I'm sitting and talking to you because I met you, because I was in a band, because I traveled the world, because I know these things, and that's why I'm here.
Oh, Cindy, you know what I've watched? I should watch more and tap into, or you share with me, the stuff you've done with Stuart Irving.
Yes.
Now, he's a fabulous, both of you got fabulous voices, and he's a pretty cool songwriter. You guys are coming up, and I've tapped into about 3-4 songs, and I'm going, good for you. You're keeping the home fires burning, man. That's so nice.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Bokkie.
Yeah, that was nice.
Appreciate
And so when we finished our chat, we'll chat in the next few days and post to me some of the other tracks that I could give a list to,
With pleasure. I'll send you all those tracks and
listen,
whatever else you want to hear.
You know what else was cool, Cindy? Going back about half hour in the conversation was, Henny Becker.
Yes.
One of the biggest monsters on the planet. Henny
Monster.
and Alistair are from Mufalera.
In Rhodesia.
I think it was Zambia. And you know what I mean?
Zambia, that's right.
Yes.
Of course, because Alistair was from Zambia. Yes. And Henny's like a legend as well. I mean, really. Do you see him ever there?
On and off. We found him talk a lot. He's had a couple of medical issues going on here and there, but we chat a lot. But Henny came to, this was great. If South African artists don't know this, Henny came here about 35 years ago, and it was the early days of the Fairlight. And he had a Fairlight, which was this magical.
Yes.
There we go. And he came and he started doing relaxation tapes for yoga people on the beach in Thailand. And then he started writing glorified elevator music with his son-in-law, and the American stations bought it. And they were buying 500,000 copies up front from Henny when times were good.
Wow.
And then Henny would do a big, he had a documentary on big balloons that fly over Canada and land and all the nice fields and everything. And then Henny had to put the music together for that. So he's very prolific, very profound, very powerful, Henny.
So nice to hear that. And when you see Henny, please speak to him for me and say, I send my love. And maybe he should come on the show. He's got a lot to talk about.
I'll excite him. And I'll tell you what, if anybody ever wants the South African artist, if you want to tap into this, just go hennybecker.com. And he's got another keyboard player with him. And he's got the Toronto musicians who are the cream of the cream. I
can imagine. Because our bass player Lee used to play it with Henny at some time.
And Henny's got some great footage of all his music and him playing on stage, and it is beyond fabulous.
And with Johnny Faree and all those guys are amazing.
I used to do.
Remember that?
I used to do lots of sessions with Johnny Bossoff, and his favorite saying was, I'd go, Johnny, what are we going to do to the chorus here? It feels a bit funny, or maybe we should, I'm not a good reader, maybe we could try this. And he would go, y'all know what, no, fine. Do whatever you want.
You're well, no fine. Remember that so well.
Boshoff, he used to say that all the time. And I'm going to tell you, here's a shout out to Peter Thwaites, the engineer from Sackville. Okay.
I worked with Peter. Well, of course we did.
We all did. And I used to do many sessions. And one day, Hilton called me, Hilton Rosenthal, and he said, Box, there's Juluka African Litany coming out with Impi and all the songs on, and you're the guy. I said, sure. So I went in the studio and did the album. And Peter Thwaites said to me during a lunch break, you know, Johnny's looking for a drummer. So I said, I didn't jump. I said, but for him. And then he said, why don't you talk to him? Let me talk to him. Peter Thwaites went to Johnny and he said, look, Box is playing at the Bella Napoli. He's running out of real estate. I mean, he's making the Greeks rich and the drunks happy. Why don't you talk to Box? So Johnny and I had a chat and he goes, are you in? I said, yes. And I went to Fantasy and I said, I'm done.
That was it, eh?
Out to Peter Thwaites wherever he is. And he was the one who...
Thank you, Peter.
He excited the possibility.
All those guys, and Ian Martin and all the guys that worked there. We worked with them too. So
Richard Mitchell.
Richard Mission, of course, and Ati van Wyk was in the studios in those days. So I've got a bit more info about Mammy Blue. Everybody's gone for it. Brian Mulder even sang on Mammy Blue. Yes, Charisma was the name of the band that Patty worked in. Charisma. And then I've got Zach Hilton. I don't know if you know Zach, also a lovely musician. Zach lives in, I think he's back in LA now. He was living in Vegas. Thanks, Zach, for popping on. And Ann Heiser, of course, we love Ann. Neil Solomon. Neil Solomon is saying hi, Fox and Cindy. Hello, Neil.
Hey, Neil.
My boykies. People are just so happy to hear your stories and do this. So you go to live in Canada. You started again. What did you do? What did you start doing? How did you make a living?
I started doing teaching in the schooling system, where I've got 64 djembes and 58 congas, and I'd go and do the art of communication, mathematics, because drumming is numbers, add, subtract, multiply, divide. I'd go and do that to the schooling system. Then I kind of stopped that, and I do a lot of motivational team building, public speaking with the government and private agencies. And it's long bucks. They pay you lank bucks.
I know.
And I do that a lot. Not too much session work. Lots of musicians that I play in and around, play on quite a few albums.
Yes.
But
what is the Rhythm Safari?
Oh, it was just a little name I used in the school to take the kids on a bit of a trip.
And I'm sure you had some stories to tell them. I mean, wow, here's this crazy sort of Neanderthal man from Africa. And you always were, I swear, Bokkie, I used to see, I thought, this guy is an animal. He's a pure, savage animal with a heart of gold. I mean, your talent and everything that I used to watch, I would just look at you and I thought, he is so raw. He's raw.
Thanks, Cindy. It was who I was. And you remember in those days, I never escaped. I never took a drug since the day I was born. For the listeners, I mean, most people are going to go, seriously, in the music industry for that long?
No.
I never did that. No. I was in love with drumsticks and playing and collaborating efforts with musicians, coming up with a concise effort, putting it into a focused package, offering it to the audience so that you could enjoy it. And that's one of the greatest pleasures was when you and I used to finish shows, Cindy.
Yes.
You'd finish and you delivered, and everybody was just going, oh my God, I got my money's worth. And even though they're happy, you and I became happier knowing that we had delivered one more time. We came to do our job and we pulled it off.
Bravo. And that is exactly what it's all about. And if you want to talk about being a professional musician, that is all of it in there. It's not about having 100 doves in your dressing room and white roses. It's none of that shit. You know
So,
what I'm saying?
here, listen. I write lots of poetry. I just call it poetry.
Yes.
Here's one for you. Listen. You could step inside your dream like a thief without a steal and dance the rhythm in the pulse of your life. Like a silence in a scream. No touch, only a feel. You could be the very song of your life.
Listen to this. Oh my God. Bokkie, you are quite a catch, darling. I'm sure there are lots of lovely ladies in Canada, Gran
Well,
Canada, who would find you to be the man that they've been looking for. Do you know what I'm saying?
but
No,
then
seriously.
I'd be two-timing you.
That I would be upset, but I understand because I live here. But thank you for at least acknowledging that. I
No,
give you permission.
good. So I want to share with the viewers also. When 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 I finished my last tour with Johnny
We got
and the
to see
band,
this. Oh my God, yes, it's brilliant.
and I said goodbye, and I came home with all my flight cases and my drums, which I'll show you now. I opened one of my flight cases, and in the flight case were
Oh,
the dancing sticks that Johnny and Sipo and Dudu used to use. These are the originals from the Juluka days. And I got them, and I didn't mention anything to Johnny because those days there wasn't WhatsApp and cell phones and all that kind of stuff. And eventually one day I said to Johnny, you won't believe what I've got. I've got your dancing sticks. And he goes, you bugger. He says, I want them back. I said, too late. They're mine. So I have these sticks and I will cherish them. I should put them in like a glass case.
yes, you
And
should
put them
have
up.
them mounted. Have them mounted, darling.
Yeah, man.
That is a magnificent thing. That is something special, and nobody could even imagine something like that. The smallest thing can be so. It's a funny thing, like when we were doing the cloud thing, and it was village people and dancing, and it was so disco and all that. And I remember Philippe, he was the Indian in Village People, and he really had Indian blood in him. And he gave me this necklace of horse teeth from the Sioux tribe.
Oh,
And I
yeah?
will never forget that I kept this thing forever and ever. It eventually just fell apart because the string between all the teeth and everything and beads and all that. But it was so special to me. It was a nothing piece of nothing, but it was special to me. And those are just sticks, and you look at them and you go, these are just knobkerries, but they're so absolutely magical and special. And I think you should put them in the shadow boxes, and keep them up on the wall. You need to see them.
So many, many years ago, when Moby Dick was a sardine, before the Dead Sea reported in sick, Anne William, Gary's now wife, Anne, she
Yes,
used to read the
and
news. And I went to
yes.
her one day and I said, Anne, I've got a gift for you. And I gave her one of those Zulu bead necklaces
Oh
to put around
yeah.
it. And then she read it on the news. And so her and I have
Oh,
been chatting now, 35, 40 years later. She's still got the necklace.
I'm sure. I wonder if, oh, sadly, I think she might have been working this evening. Um, and I'm so sorry that we have to end the show. I don't want to end the show, but this is the time that we have. Um, I want to firstly thank all the people that come online and support us,
On
the
my
people
side
that
too.
are watching. Absolutely. They love you, Bokkie, and they wanted to speak to you, and they love what's happening here. They said they love the energy that's happening. They love the stories. You have such a personality. You are bigger than life, and you are truly an honorable human being. And I am so grateful that you came and graced us with your presence here today.
Oh, thank you, Cindy, and hugs and kisses from my side too. You and I have always got on so. And for the listeners, they don't know. Even though we've done this good old transcript together here,
Yes.
you've over the months and the coming months ahead, we'll still be talking on WhatsApp. We blurb each other all the
Absolutely.
time.
We will be talking more and more. We have been talking for years.
Yeah.
We met up again on Facebook a couple of years ago, and I was like, Bokkie, of course.
There we
So
go.
thank goodness for all those things. And I love my show. I'm so grateful to Discover TV, Julian, our producer. Just keeps it going for us. And next week, we have the lovely Bobby Angel King of
Oh,
Country.
beautiful.
Bobby Angel's going to be our guest next week. We're going to also have some funny stories, let me tell you. But tonight was spectacular. It was special. I want to play out with obviously one of the favorite songs of Johnny Clegg and of you and your contribution to South African music will never, ever go unnoticed and
Oh,
always be appreciated, Bokkie. So stay online while we play out with our video. Thank you again, everybody. And I'll talk to you, Mr. Bokkie, straight after the show. Ladies and gentlemen, good night. Bless your hearts. We love you. Here's a video that you're going to dig.
Yeah,